This is a 2000 Chevy Blazer ZR2. Alright, so all jokes aside, this is a 2000 Chevy Blazer ZR2 and I just purchased it. So in this video I'm just going to quickly go over how I got it, why I got it, and what the plans are. So I do not buy very many cars. When I was younger, I was always buying junker cars, playing with them, selling them, but pretty much the entire time I've been an adult, I drove my HHR panel, which was basically for business to run my handyman stuff out of. I drove that for 12 years. Then I bought my Fiat 500 Abarth last year, and that's the only two cars I bought since 2008. Until last night, when I bought this little beauty for $1 a year, and this is going to hopefully be my winter beater slash hauling things vehicle, because obviously a Fiat 500 isn't the best for hauling things, and when it's on coilovers and slammed to a couple inches off the ground, it's not very good in the snow. So here I am. So as of the time of this filming, I am 43 years old. I have lived every second of that 43 years in the Midwest, and I've never owned a four-wheel drive vehicle. I have never owned a truck. I have never owned an SUV. I've always just been a car person. So I finally decided like it was a good time to get something that's actually gonna handle the snow. And this is what I settled on. Basically, I wanted something cheap. So that pretty much ruled out anything made in the last 10 years. I wanted something still kind of cool, and that was how I ended up with the ZR2 instead of just a four-door Blazer that are everywhere. And I wanted something that's gonna be fairly reliable and fairly easy and inexpensive to maintain. And the V6 in these, where it's just essentially two cylinders chopped off a small block Chevy, they put these in like every Blazer and S10 and the base model 1500s and the Astro vans, and I mean the list is way longer than that, but they've made millions and millions of these engines. Parts are everywhere. Every parts store you go into in America is gonna have everything you need for this. So that was kind of how I landed on this. As an added bonus, these things were really, really cool when I was younger. This was like, I mean, I was never a four-wheel drive guy or a truck guy, but for the people that were, like, this was the thing to have. So now I finally have one. I might be wrong. You can play this back for me in 5 years and laugh at me if I was wrong. But I feel like these are at their bottom in values, and people are gonna start wanting these. You know, you go back 20 years earlier than this, you go look back at the old Blazers, the full-size ones, you look at the Broncos, all that stuff, the values are just stupid. So it makes sense to me that it's just gonna kind of follow the timeline, and pretty soon, these I feel like are gonna be the cool vehicle to have, and it's the two-door off-road package, fully loaded. So I think it's worth fixing up, it's worth keeping, and I doubt I'll ever sell it for less than 2,000 bucks. So no matter what, I should end up on top. Now you might be looking right now at this thing and saying, hey, that looks pretty clean for 2,000. It is not. It is a nightmare. So I'm gonna take around the camera and show you all of the things I know of already that are wrong with this. And I'm gonna dig into it a little bit today and probably uncover some more surprises. So here we go. First, let's talk body. It is not great. So the rockers have been repainted. It looks like some cheap undercoating. So I know there's some surprises down here. I'm pretty sure this is expanding foam insulation that you would buy at the hardware store. See a little bit of wire mesh right here. So I'm pretty sure this rocker panel is completely gone. Hood is not great. Missing a bumper cover. More hood problems. More hood problems. More of the same down here. More of the same down here. More dents. We've got cracks all over the windshield. And I think that's all the body stuff. However, I feel pretty comfortable with it because all the body panels are cheap and easy to get. You can buy replacement rockers, you can buy replacement door skins, hoods, fenders, all that stuff. No problem to get. And the frame is super solid. There's no problem with the frame. So I feel like it's a pretty good platform to work on. Obviously for a winter car, I don't care if it has some dents, so I'm just not even gonna worry about that for now, but if I ever decide to make it a little bit nicer, it'd be easy to do and worth doing. Let's look at the horrors that await inside. If you were playing Family Feud and they said, what do you not want to find in the back of the car you just purchased? Probably right below like dead body would be transfer case. But this is actually a spare. The one that's in here supposedly works, although it's got the typical broken vacuum line problems that all of these have. So it doesn't actually engage. Hopefully. We'll see. I also have a spare sunroof. I don't really know the story. Supposedly the sunroof didn't work very well and there was a parts car involved and they took a spare. But I don't really know if this is the spare or if the spare is installed and this is the old one. Either way, there's no headliner and you can't get the headliner anymore. So I will be watching for a parts car. But that's really all there is to see back here. Just a lot of junk. I've got a spare dashboard panel, some seat covers, the little composite covers that go underneath to protect the engine. Yeah, it's missing some stuff and it's got some extra stuff, and the stuff it's missing doesn't correspond with the stuff in the trunk. Let's see how awful it looks under the hood. So this is the stock 4.3 V6. However, it is not the one that came in this car. The person I bought it from hadn't owned it very long. The person he bought it from replaced the engine from one out of a parts car. I don't know what was wrong with the original engine. I don't know if there's anything wrong with this engine. But I do know the guy did not know what he was doing, and there's some wires that he broke that he didn't get unhooked and had to be spliced. There's a lot of questionable things that were done. Like once you've worked on cars or anything for a while, you learn when you take out bolts, put them in a bag, label it, take lots of pictures, draw diagrams. I'm pretty sure this was one of those guys that just threw all the bolts in a bucket, and then when he put it back together, was just sticking through the bucket trying to find a bolt that would fit. Here's an example. That's not right. Here's some more questionable things. I think that's just the ground wire for the hood, and then the hood light, not sure. I also noticed the engine ground is broken off. So right now the engine is not grounded. The guy that pulled the old engine just like cut the power steering hose, and then when he pulled the new engine out of the parts car, he also cut the power steering hose and then put it in. So then this guy had to buy a new power steering hose when a guy originally would have had two good ones. I don't know. Other questionable decisions, like half the stuff on this truck doesn't work, but you go buy a Canon cold air filter. Coming inside, we have no mirrors. We have one gray door panel for a black interior. We have the very helpful gauge cluster, which is always at 100 miles an hour, and the oil pressure is always maxed, and the engine temp is always like 240. So four-wheel drive doesn't work, the gauges don't work, a bunch of the interior lights do not work. I didn't try the radio, but it did come with the optional cassette deck, which is pretty cool. Power windows worked. The seats are actually bolted down, and the power part works. Like I said, no headliner, so that's just annoying. Like, why would you, like, how do you lose a headliner? You cannot get those anymore. So it needs some work, but I think the biggest problem right now has to do with the brakes. It was making some weird noises. It kind of felt to me like the caliper was loose and intermittently dragging on the rotor. So I'm gonna jack it up, if I have a jack this tall, and take off the back wheels and see how it looks. I'm gonna start making a shopping list because I'm gonna make a big parts order. My parts list is already growing as I broke one of the studs off. I think I need a new shield. Brakes don't look too bad. If I have a loose caliper, it's not this one. So one minor gripe I have from the previous owner. So he got new tires for it, except this thing came factory with 31-inch tires, and it looks like this guy just saved some money by going to Walmart and getting some, I don't see the size, it's on the bottom, but not quite 31s. Alright, well it doesn't look too bad. There's still a possibility that the problem is inside this for the emergency brake drum, but I guess at least I have enough of a list to know what I need to order back here, so I'll put this back together. So I just got the front wheel off, and the brakes have about half life, but all the bushings are really rough. If I had a religion, this would be the #1 sin. Putting the white letters on the inside of your tire. Another interesting thing, these might be the factory shocks. I don't know how many miles this has on it, but most of them have 200,000 miles by now, so I'm hoping somebody just splurged for the good ones for replacements, and these aren't 20-year-old shocks. Oh, and I mentioned earlier the ground wire. You can now clearly see that. I just cut it off. So I'm hoping that if I get that wire put back on, it'll solve some of my gauge problems and interior light problems. All right, quick update. I've been working around the car with the camera off, looking for little problems. I got that ground wire hooked up down underneath, and it didn't make any change to the dashboard. I didn't really think it would. Yeah, that's still like that, but I had the battery out. I put that back on there for now. I thought I would have a new bolt, but I don't have one here. I got to order it. The reason I took the battery out was to check to see if the four-wheel drive engaging diaphragm was still good. And I'm going to say no. So I'll need one of those. It's a really common thing to go bad. I know this thing has some vacuum problems because the four-wheel drive won't engage, and I'm not sure if that's purely vacuum or also electrical related to the reason the gauges don't work. But then I came over here and here's a vacuum line, not hooked to anything. Oh look, here's another vacuum line not hooked to anything. So I found vacuum routing diagrams online. I'm gonna have to just come out here with a printed out copy and go to town. The guy I bought it from told me the temp sensor wasn't working and needed to be replaced. There was one in the car, so that's one less part for $5 I have to buy. So I'm gonna turn the camera back off and I'm gonna start digging into this electrical problem. All right, well, I'm gonna call it a day. Unfortunately, I didn't get a whole lot fixed. I just got a lot torn apart. So I started trying to get the temp sensor out, but the tools out here at this shop are terrible. So I'll bring some more from home next time I'm here. So I've been chasing around some of these electrical problems and made a few discoveries. One, I went through all the fuse boxes and all of the fuses were good except one, and that happened to be the one for the radio. I put it in and now the radio works. I don't know if the few things I found and the grounds I hooked back up and all that, I don't know if it affected the dashboard, except now the speedometer is 0 instead of 100. So maybe that's promising, but oil and temp are still not looking great. Obviously the stereo has been out and then they put the factory one back in. I don't know how much you can trust somebody else's work. It sure looks like everything's done right, but considering there's electrical problems and I know that's been messed with, that's maybe a place to start. The other thing I've noticed is evidence of mice and a few spots where I could see the mice have been chewing on the insulation. So that might be part of my problem as well. But at this point, it's been a long day. I'm gonna call it. I gotta order a bunch of parts and I'm gonna have to come back out here and spend another whole day as soon as those come in. So I think that's about it. Ooh, I do have to show you this. It's all cleaned out. And I found something else I'm missing. No sun visors. I guess luckily for this time of year, I don't see the sun in the morning or at night. So I guess I'll live for now, but something else I need to get from a parts car. What a mess. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.